Well, thanks so much for making some time to speak to me, Chantal and Ziggy. Hopefully, we'll see you pop up at some point here. And I'm super grateful to Nathan for recommending you to be on the show here. Really excited to hear about the insights that you help people that you provide to people to help them as they try to approach mentorship and use it as a vehicle, as you mentioned earlier, for career development. But as always with these episodes, it's fun to hear, what your career journey has been like up to this point. I think people learn a tremendous amount from hearing these stories. So it would be amazing to hear, how have you gotten to where you are today? And what sort of stops have you made along the way?
Yeah, and I think Imran, that's a great question to start with, because I think one of the fundamental myths that I still enjoy besting is this concept of career that still exists, right? It's not completely gone. That it's this like it's a straight shot,
Exactly.
right? And like I don't know about you, but the amount of people that I connect with who will say something like, career is a journey, career is nonlinear, I've gone with the flow and I've done lots of things in my career. Like it's much more of that. And yet, I think there are still conceptions and misconceptions about that it is something that is a bit more maybe straightforward, so to speak, and that it's intended to be straightforward when it's just not the case for most of us,
I
right?
that over and over again, but I agree. It's a very prevalent mindset that school, then the job that you went to school for, and that's it. But that's never the case.
Right. So what a great segue. So my schooling, which is what, so I'm originally from Bermuda. That's home number one for me. I've since made Nova Scotia and Atlantic Canada home number two because of university. Right. So I came here to go to St. Mary's University. And like many people, no sweet clue what I wanted to do with it afterwards. I knew I liked people. I knew I liked helping people.
Right.
So I enrolled in psychology,
Okay,
right?
fair enough.
Which is
Starting
what you do, or one of those paths. And luckily enough, I had somebody who was paying a bit of attention. This was a micro organizational behavior professor who took an interest in me, and she gave me an opportunity to TA that course, and led to some really cool conversations about her work and research in organizational behavior and IO psychology. And that just kind of like had some light bulbs going off for me around how to connect what I did enjoy in psychology. Oh, here, by the way, is Ziggy.
hello, Ziggy. Thank you for making some time for us.
Right in his busy schedule. Um, he is like he's like me. He is solar powered, Imran. So all he wants to do is be outside.
Fair enough. We won't keep you long and we'll get you back out in the sun.
Well, it's all good. But where I was going with that was, I think one of the things that is part of my journey, and I absolutely encourage it for folks, and we're an active employer in terms of taking advantage of work integrated learning and co-ops and field placements,
Ah,
because that's how you get to experience different things, right?
absolutely.
Do you hear the pup making the noise?
I can't hear him, so he is all good. But
Good,
I'm sure
good.
that's tricky on your end.
Headphones, that's great. Um, so really, I think what was the start of many steps that led to where I am today was, again, that professor who took an interest, who I wouldn't have called her a mentor then.
Hmm.
Looking back, I absolutely can recognize the fundamentals of that relationship. She spent time with me, she asked me questions, she didn't judge my answers, she reflected back what she heard me saying, she gave me opportunities to try different things, she gave me some opportunities where I made mistakes, and you got to go, oh, that didn't work the way we wanted it to.
Right.
Right. And that one decision led to co-op. That co-op led to me connecting with the provincial government here in Nova Scotia. That then led to a connection with a small business owner. That led to a 2-year employment post co-op with her in the world of consulting. That then led to a full-time job in HR with a small tech company that we grew to like 3 times its size.
Oh,
That ultimately led to one other before I got to where I am now today in 2018 when I started my own company. So not linear at all, lots of steps and moves. And I'm really grateful for it, right? Like I wouldn't be anywhere else but where I am today. And that's a And that's a really important thing to say, to be able to say, I should say.
That's amazing, and, yeah, I do think it's important to kinda stop and, you know, feel grateful for these kinds of opportunities and things that are difficult to recognize at the time when you're in them, but people like that are so special, and I'm glad that you met someone like that, and it's interesting, right, that you met someone who could kind of help shape your trajectory so early on just by kinda stumbling through, figuring out what you wanted and just taking a course you were interested in.
Mhm.
I think people worry about having to have it all figured out, but you can kinda start somewhere.
Yes. Yeah. And I mean, 100% agree. So some of the work that we still do at On Point, there's two community groups in particular we do a bit more in-depth work with. And one of them is a program called the Atlantic Canada, now Nova Scotia Study and Stay program with Edgenova. And
Okay.
that program is all about supporting international students in their final year of study in building connections off campus
Ah,
in their industries of interest and or communities across the province, really as a vehicle to help them connect the dots between here's all the theoretical things and or in some cases practical too you've learned in your studies. Now how do they apply to the physical place and community you want to be a part of? And let's help open up what that how many paths and possibilities there are, so you can take what you might think is a very narrow field, or what you might think is marketing and go like, well, there's only a couple different things I can do, and you're like, oh my gracious, so
yeah,
many different ways that looks, right? So
absolutely.
that learner's mindset I think is really really key, and work like what you do at In Stage, to be able to help people just practice and that self-reflection in practicing and job search. I think it's actually one of those other little missed pieces, right? Like there's lessons everywhere, every day. You just got to slow down enough to be able to kind of collect them and learn from them, right?
Yeah, I agree, and I do think it kinda comes around to what you were saying earlier about taking advantage of things like a co-op or a placement.
Mhm.
I think it comes from doing things and sort of reflecting, like you're saying, you know, whether it's taking a course, a program, trying, a simulation of something, you start
Mhm.
to get a sense of what you like and don't like.
Yep.
Um, and I think that it's interesting because, I remember going through school and thinking I wanted to be an engineer, and I thought, okay, well, that means I'm going to either work on cars or planes or bridges.
Right. Yep.
Uh, and it was it's 17-year-old mentality there, but
Yep.
um, yeah, it wasn't until I met some people who were saying the same kind of things. Here are more options. Here's what engineering entails, and it's there's an unlimited number of roles in that field. So
Mhm.
when you kind of approach international students to help them start building that network, um, what kind of guidance do you provide them? Like, where do they start? Is it asking themselves questions around, what they're interested in, or where does that sort of process start for them? I know for students, it helps to kind of give them some kind of specific starting point because it's pretty daunting, I know for them.
100%. Right. And it's interesting. So one of the very first students, it was actually might have been a recent grad, that I was interviewing before starting On Point. So like, when you go to start a business, you're kind of talking to people, right? And you're really trying to understand what's the pain point. And the pain point, Imran, was in Nova Scotia in particular, in Atlantic Canada, we had all these amazingly eager to learn, qualified, overqualified in some cases, people
Yeah,
that were graduating from our institutions, colleges, universities, career colleges, and we had employers who needed them. But there seemed to be this giant chasm in the middle, and the
yeah,
two just couldn't connect. And so, in the early days of figuring out what would become On Point and why ultimately I chose mentorship as the vehicle that we now use to help close that gap, is because I would have conversations that started simply, I would ask one question: why engineering? And the answer I got, and I'm sure you've heard this many times yourself, um, and this one particular example, so again, great segue. His dad was an engineer, uncle
right.
was an engineer, older brother was an engineer, older cousin was an engineer. And so I
Ah,
said, okay, so tell me more. And we finally got to what he loved. So what got him excited, what got him talking with his hands and moving close to the table as we were talking, was that he loved solving problems.
okay.
You and I both know that skill
Yes,
set is applicable in so many domains.
100%.
So it does start. One of our fundamental tools that we use with a number of client groups, whether we're helping them run mentorship programs or simply career development programs where we're doing workshop content and support with students, is our career Kickstarter. And that is a really simple model. I say there's not really magic to it. The magic is almost in that we have a captive audience, so to speak,
Right.
and we guide participants, which sometimes are students, sometimes are career professionals who have been 20 years in one field and are transitioning into another,
I was just gonna
right?
That's amazing.
And it starts with, let's magic wand, what would your ideal next step in career look like? And creating a safe space, Imran, for people to think through that, and silence to think through it. Examples come along. And then, like, we stay in dreaming for a little bit, but
Okay.
then we move to practicality pretty quick. The next step is coming back to what you asked, which is, okay, so now if I have a sense, I might not have 100% of what I want to do. Most of us don't,
No,
right?
it's
But
hard
can you
to.
get to 50? Like, can
Yeah.
you get to 50%? And then with that 50%, okay, I know I like solving problems. Now, what kind of industries could I solve problems in? What industries am I most compelled? What problems do I want to solve? What things do I want to create change, be a part of in the world? Then, who are the companies, leaders, or organizations that I admire that seem to be doing something like what I want to be doing? And how do I build relationships with them? So the second part is all practical. We build a network relationship map. And then it's about helping people with the confidence and the confidence to go build those relationships and learn from conversations, hence mentorship,
Oh,
right?
that makes a ton of sense, Chantal, and it's so, approachable when you put it that way that, okay, we don't have to have it figured out 100%.
No.
Um, and, that's something I, to this day, continue to remind myself as I approach my goals, that you can start somewhere. I think hearing that, hopefully for, anyone in a transitionary period in their career kinda listening to this episode, gives you a chance to kinda breathe out a little and just think, "Okay, if I just have that 50% sort of North Star, I can start moving in that direction." And then I really appreciate the tangible next steps you're providing here. Okay, well, um, now that you have that sense of wanting to help people, where do you want to help? Is it healthcare? Is it marketing? Is it film? Is it, business? That really helps narrow the scope down to, finding the companies. Um, I really appreciate that kind of, stepped approach, and I think people will as well.
Yeah.
Now, once you get down to the granular side of things and it's, okay, well, these
Yep.
are the companies and potentially even these are the people. Um,
Mm,
I know people get pretty nervous about going, well, I know it's, Sarah that I need to speak to, but how do I connect with Sarah? Do you have
right.
guidance on how to start those conversations or where those relationships start?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you did a really great job, Imran, capturing what we try to do, right? So we position our whole kind of our ethos as an organization is to take the lonely and alone out of career building,
Mm,
right?
I like
Fundamentally, thank you. I think when you do work in this space, particularly as an entrepreneur and or even as a career development professional, folks working in post-secondary institutions, not-for-profits, even folks working in people and culture, you do this work because there's a connection and some kind of alignment to wanting people to lead their best lives. And let's face it, careers are a really big part of our lives, right?
100%. Yeah.
You
Um,
know,
I really just to echo what you're saying there, I always think that if we can help kind of the people who are interested in doing specific work get those jobs, that's when you end up walking into the bakeries of people who greet you with a warm smile, or you end up with a contractor that's excited about a project or whatever it is. The right people are in the right roles. So it's extremely important work to help people find their right careers. But sorry to cut you off there.
no, there's clearly an alignment, and there's it's not just you and I saying that. There is proof that shows when people are connected to what they do. And let's face it, COVID has done a number, I think, in bringing what was already part of the conversation to, I think, the mainstream in terms of people, for the most part, want meaningful work. Now, that means something different to all of us, but
Yes.
but understanding that meaningful work in most cases means a place where I feel value, where I can add value, where I'm not a number, right? Where it's not just about the paycheck, but I'm treated well. I have room for growth. My company cares about me. I feel that they care about me. I feel welcome, I feel included. All of those things that I'd argue were important before the pandemic,
Absolutely.
they're still there. I think it's a great thing that people now have more confidence and voice in being able to speak for themselves. And the benefit to us as employers and industries, when we can get the right people because they're passionate about what they're doing, they're curious, they're internally motivated, intrinsically motivated to do what it is that we need them to do, it's a win for them. It's a win for us. It's a win for our customers, our clients, and the communities we serve.
Exactly.
Right? It's a no-brainer, but it takes time.
It does. It does take time, and I think now that it's, like you said, kind of in the forefront of people's minds
Yeah.
and they're recognizing that, um, it's shifting from both sides of the table, right? Employers are recognizing they need to provide that sort of environment, and people are recognizing that's what they want.
Yeah.
Because it's true, up till that kind of inflection point, it sort of felt like, well, this is how it is. And
Right.
you know, some people are really happy in their roles, and some just kind of aren't. But it doesn't
Right.
have to be that way, like you're saying.
No,
Uh,
no,
and
no. I
I
realize
think
I didn't answer your question, by the way.
no, no. Well, I mean, continue. Yeah, I am curious. Yeah, but that was an important side note.
Well, and it all connects,
It does.
right? Because one of the things that one of my most often, so I facilitate workshops. I have a team that facilitates workshops. And that's one of the ways we work directly with participants of programs. The other, though, is through facilitating mentorship training, which is really about equipping mentors and mentees to have meaningful conversations.
Right.
In either of those cases, what we're trying to do is just normalize that everybody has a different lived experience, which infiltrates our career perceptions, our career confidence, and to really practice curiosity and a growth mindset and start from that place of, I know nothing but what my own experience has been, and I'm enough. So when it comes to actually, okay, I found somebody, I'm in my like ideal employer matrix, let's say, that I would love to meet. So Sarah is the example you mentioned. If I have clarity of, like, again, is that 50% of what my interests, my passions, my motivations are. If I can speak from that place when I'm reaching out to Sarah, I'm being authentic. So I'm being me. I think that's really critical. People don't want to meet versions of people that we think they want to meet. They actually want to meet the real person, right?
Yeah.
And then if I can go one step further and connect what my thing is to Sarah's thing, which, by the way, if she's on my like my ideal matrix, there's something that's connecting the dots.
Yeah.
My job is to show Sarah what that connection is. So maybe I find the work that she's been leading in her own company fascinating because she's been able to do work that has an impact for a population that I really want to help and work with. Great. I'm now going to approach Sarah from a perspective of talking about that. It's not about me, it's about her and her lived experience and really trying to learn from that. One of the most fundamental truths somebody told me, one of my other mentors told me many years ago when I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do in my career, because
Mhm.
I'm no different. You
Right.
know, I was in a role where I went, I know it's not this, but I don't know what it is, right?
So
Um,
relatable. I know what you mean. And I think a lot of people do.
100%. And my hope, Imran, is that people realize they don't need to figure that out alone. Get a mentor, have somebody, whether you use that term or not, informal or formalized, and have some help to go through that. And one of the things this person in particular told me, when you're reaching out for individuals, you never ask for the job or for money. If it's an investment, let's say as an entrepreneur, you're asking for advice, right? And you need to make it really clear to them that that's what you're asking for. It's not a sales pitch. Like, and if
Right.
it is, don't do it, right? Just be upfront about what things are and
Yeah.
be personable and make the connection. That's my first and foremost. And then the second, be persistent and don't take it personally if somebody says no or they don't respond. It's not
Exactly.
about us,
Yeah.
right?
Um, I just yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think it's something anyone can do. And once you get started and you have that mindset that don't take it personally, It's pretty amazing the people that will respond and will give you guidance, um, and really, any stage of their career. Um, and yeah, I know we're running out of time here. I knew it would go quick, Chantel, but I hope you'll come back for a future episode because I'd love to get um, into deeper examples of that and ask you questions
Yeah.
kind of based on the different approaches I've seen to find mentors. I've seen people, reach out and say, "Hey, like, would you spend an hour with me uh,
Mhm.
going over something? I'll pay you." Or, "Hey,
Mhm.
I'd love to work on a project of yours for free." Or do you have, 5 minutes for a coffee chat? I've seen all
Mhm.
these different approaches, and I'm kind of curious, if you think, any are more effective than others, or if
Mhm.
it's, just sort of person by person that those kind of things work out. But maybe just, your quick thoughts on that.
Mhm.
Um, do you have suggestions? I guess what you're saying really at the heart of it is to not be asking for a job directly. It's that guidance piece. Kind of however you come around to that.
100%. And before you need it. So,
Right.
like, we talk about our career Kickstarter as an example. And again, the reason why I chose mentorship as the vehicle to help people take the alone out of career, it's not transactional, it's not reactive,
Right.
right? And that is a hard thing, I think, for in particular for students, who are going through the final stages of whether it's high school and or post-secondary of some kind,
Hmm.
um, to really sink into and realize that the timeline that you have in your head is not the timeline that employers work off of and or that investors work off of. And
Right.
so it really comes back to understanding who your audience is and building relationships, not transactions. Right. So I think, yes, we could totally pull so many pieces of those things apart, but that'd be the way I summarize it: quality over quantity, and proactive way before you need it, and then you've got to maintain it. So again, it's relationship, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like we could spend another half hour talking about
Mhm.
what that means because I know exactly what you're saying around what it means to, if you do get someone willing to have a coffee chat with you and then you never talk to them again, um, it's maybe for lack of a better word, almost rude because they've kind of shown that they're willing to help. And if you don't maintain that relationship or, reach out and cheer them on in what they're doing, then, how can a strong relationship form? And the last thing I'll just mention is that I think it's very useful to know that you can create these relationships. If you don't have someone kind of notice you, you can go out of your way and, read about your professor and say, wow, like that's
Mhm.
really amazing work that they've done before they started teaching and ask them questions. And that's another way that that same relationship could start in a different way. Um,
100%.
yeah, so thanks for kind of painting that picture for us, Chantal. And I know you've got to go. So just want to thank you for the time you've spent with us today. I truly hope you'll come back
I
to
would love to.
share more insights and advice. I have 1,000 more questions to ask you. But do you have any kind of just final thoughts you'd like to share with folks, maybe around mentorship or any advice for job seekers at any stage that might be catching this episode?
Yeah. And would absolutely love to come back and run. And Ziggy will probably be much bigger by that
Oh,
time, but maybe
he
he'll
is
have some
welcome
on
as
point
well.
swag.
Please bring him
um,
back as well.
I think in kind of in a brief closing, um, I've been hearing a lot of anxiety around career over the last 2 years, and I think the pandemic did a number to accelerate that, from
So,
people, both young in career and folks who are in transition, whether intentionally or because of displacement, because of the pandemic and or changes with AI, as an example.
yeah.
And I think that that puts pressure on. Let's face it, we all have realities we need to maintain, right? Um, being mindful that that pressure might be there for you and might be coloring your view of opportunities, might be coloring how you show up to ask for those connections, might be showing up in how you interview, might be showing up in how you even present yourself at a networking or an in-person event of some kind, virtual, whatever have you. And to just, like, understand that self-awareness is one of your best tools when it comes to career development, no matter the stage you are in, because then you can modify so that you really are bringing your best self forward as much as you can, right? I think that's I feel for people right now at this point, where we are absolutely in a state of change. Things have always been in a state of change. I think again, just this seems like there might be some focus around it right now from a whole host of perspectives. So I really think you are your most important piece of career development, and you have to invest in you. Nobody else can do it for you. People can help, but it has to start with you, right? So
Yeah.
there's my closing remarks on a big, big, big topic.
That's just, well, it's a very helpful reminder as well, Chantal, just to recognize kind of these factors involved. And I do think, once you sort of see what they are, it becomes a little less vague a sense of anxiety and more of a it's because of this. And then you can kind of do what you were saying before and address it kind of step by step. Well, if it's this, then maybe I'll do that. But once you
Yeah.
kind of know what you're dealing with, then it's a little bit easier. So, um, yeah, super helpful to think of it that way. And again, thank you so much for the time today. Really appreciated the conversation and getting to meet Ziggy as well. And yeah, I hope you have a great rest of your day, Chantal. And I will absolutely reach out. I'd love to continue our conversation in the future.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. Love the work you're doing. Excited to find out more and excited for part two.
Yes, same here. I will talk to you soon, Chantal.
Bye.
Bye.